Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm your Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan Wellbeing Coordinator, and we're going to make a quick granola recipe. It's very cheap and easy to make, and you can kind of add extras however you want to, whatever you like in terms of like dried fruit or nuts and seeds, whatever kind of floats your boat. I'm going to keep it very simple, and then you can add, and I'll tell you how you can add a little bit and where you would add those nuts and seeds to this recipe. So this is just gonna be a basic granola. Like I said, it's just gonna really require oats, honey, cinnamon, a little bit of vanilla, and collagen is optional. And then dried fruit and nuts are also optional, and seeds. So kind of up to you how you wanna make it. So we're gonna get started. I have my oven warming up at 350, and we're gonna cook it at that temperature for 25 to 30 minutes. And you're gonna toss it halfway. So halfway through 25, 30 minutes, you're gonna toss that granola so that each side kind of gets coated and browned, and then you'll put it in there for the remaining time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, and we're gonna do kind of like a double batch. We're gonna do 4 scoops or 4 cups of oatmeal. This is gluten-free oatmeal. So I got 2 scoops of that. And then I'm gonna add 2, you can add 1 to 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I'm gonna add a little more cinnamon, so I'm gonna add closer to 2 teaspoons because I really like that cinnamon flavor. So add 1 teaspoon. If you just are not in love with it. And then we're gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla to this recipe. Oops. If I can get this top opened. Okay. So we're just gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla to that recipe. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stir that around. You can also add nutmeg, or if you have a pumpkin spice seasoning that you like, you can add that to that as well. So I'm gonna get this really coated. Awesome. And so now I'm gonna show you where you can add your nuts and seeds. Let me just grab those. Okay, so you can add walnuts, pecans, you can add almonds, half like shaved almonds. And if you want to, you can make them less chunky. Just put them in the blender, pulse them a couple times, and that will kind of break them up and make them into smaller chunks. Or you can even just put them in a Ziploc bag and take a mug, break it up that way, and then put it into this mixture. So if you want to add some flax, add some good fibers and good fats to it, you can add 1 to 2 tablespoons of flax to it. So I'm just going to add about 2 tablespoons of flax to that recipe. Mix it up, get it incorporated. And then I'm going to add I'm going to add some slivered almonds as well. So you can add about a cup of nuts, whatever nuts you choose. So I'm going to add about the remaining of these shaved almonds. So a little bit of those, and so the rest are going to be about, so a 1/4 cup of those shaved almonds, and then about 3/4 cup of these walnuts. So these ones are kind of already broken up a little bit. Oops. Just going to add those to this. And walnuts are really easy to break up too by hand if you want to do that, if you see some bigger chunks in there. You can omit these, especially if you have any nut allergies. So I'm just going to mix those around into this granola. So I always like to add my dried fruit towards the end of the recipe. So once you kind of you can either add it at the end after you pull it out of the oven, then you kind of toss your dried fruit in there, or you can add it in the last like 5 to 10 minutes while it's baking in the oven. So you would just sprinkle it over the top, add it in that way. Kind of up to you. I don't like to add it at the beginning because then the dried fruit kind of melts down. And I just don't like the flavor and texture of that, but kind of up to you how you want to do that. So I have it looks like this, and now I'm going to add my honey. So this is going to make it, if you want it less sweet, add less honey, add more honey if you want it a little more sweet. Typical granola has a ton of sugar in it, and that's where, yes, granola can be healthy, quote unquote, but it has a ton of sugar and a ton of other things in there that really don't need to be in there because granola should really just be simple. So that's where I kind of tend to like always make my own granola. So I'm going to start with adding a 4th cup of honey. And then I'm going to mix it around, make sure everything gets really coated, well incorporated. Now what you can do to also add a little bit of like that golden flavor that you're going to get to it, or that golden crunch, you can add about a 4th cup to a 1/2 cup of butter to this as well. And that's just going to add a little bit of that, when you see it with granola where it gets that golden brown, it will get that golden brown with it. You can also add coconut oil. I'm going to use coconut oil for mine, so I'm going to add about a 4th cup of melted coconut oil to that. Grab my coconut oil. I'm going to place it, you can melt it on the stove or you can melt it in the microwave. So I'm just going to scoop that out. Really quick, really easy to make. Out of there. So I'm going to melt this down. And then I'm just going to drizzle it over that. So I'm going to add more honey once I put it on the pan. The reason that I'm not adding more honey to it right now is because I'm going to add it and drizzle it over the top. So if you wanted a little more sweeter, you can add about a 4th cup to a 1/2 cup of honey in this first initial process. And then I'm going to add about another little less than a 4th cup when I drizzle it over there. It's probably going to be about 4 to 5 tablespoons. So really up to you. And I just got a little messy with that. So once that's melted down, then we're just going to mix it all together, pour it on this pan, cook like I said for 25 to 30 minutes, tossing it halfway, mixing it around, and then you have, once it's done, putting your berries in, whether it's raisins, whether it's cranberries, whether it's dried cherries, whatever that may be. You can add it in as the last thing after you pull it out of the oven, or add it to the last 5 to 10 minutes in the oven with your granola. Mix that. Awesome, so that is done. So I'm going to drizzle that over it. Mix it around. Really coat it. Nice and incorporated. Okay, so now I'm going to add this to my sheet with some parchment paper over it. I will show you a lower carb version too of this in another episode. You can have a couple ways to do this. You can drive apricots to this recipe. This is just very quick and easy recipe to do. So then I'm going to take my honey and I'm going to drizzle about, you don't really have to measure out, but I'm just 4 to 5 tablespoons. So I'm just going to drizzle it over the top very lightly. And then I'm just going to mix it around. You can always add more too if you want. So I'm just going to mix it, and then I'm just going to spread it out. Make sure it's all even. Everything gets coated. Wipe the spoon off. And there we go. So I'm going to put this in the oven, 25 to 30 minutes, and I'm going to put my dried fruit in after it's done. Remember, you can always put it in at the last 5 to 10 minutes of it baking. Don't forget to stir it halfway through. And you're gonna bake it so it will feel crunchy. Everything will be kind of golden brown when you take it out. And once you let it sit, it will kind of clump together. And then you can kind of break it apart, and it will be your chunky granola that you like, that you can add to yogurt, drink with your favorite milk or milk alternative, or just eat kind of in as like granola little pieces. So I hope you enjoy this recipe. Thanks for joining me. I'm Maddie, your Blue Cross Blue Shield Michigan Wellbeing Coordinator. Have a wonderful rest of your day.